Bienvenidos y welcome to the Biz Bruja podcast, where reclaiming our powerful intuition, our sacred medicina, embracing our magic and healing ancestral patterns, invoke powerful creations in our own well-being, our lives, familias, community, and our businesses. Remembering that our businesses are so important at this time. I'm the creatrix of this blogcast, the Biz Bruja herself, Vanessa Codorniu, a modern-day bruja, fourth-generation psychic medium, clinical hypnotist, energy healer, and soul biz mentor and coach. An Argentine-American who started reading adults at 16, became a professional intuitive at 22, and now guides creatives, intuitives, healers, and entrepreneurs to break through fears, connect to the practical power of their intuition so they can serve the world powerfully. Hola, bienvenidos. Welcome to 2025. I'm so excited to be here, folks. I recovered from the virus thing I had, and then I went down to Miami and got slapped upside the head with the flu. No era divertido. It was not fun. But anyway, I've recovered, and someone said to me, "Oh, you probably got the flu because you needed more rest." And I'm like, "Yes, but when you're coughing up a lung, it's kind of hard to rest." But thankfully, I'm not doing that anymore. I have gotten some rest, and I've gotten a lot of time to sit with myself, right? Because when you're not feeling well and you're sitting with yourself, perhaps even journaling or staring outside the window of a snowy day with the sun coming in just so, kind of gave me some ideas for this coming year and some offerings. There are two offerings that I'll be talking about in this episode, but it started to give me a lot of thoughts and lead me down kind of like the Piscean rabbit hole, or I guess tsunami, or maybe the wild waves of understanding in terms of the nodal shifts that are coming. Before I get into all that, because I'm excited, I'm really actually excited about the nodal shifts that are coming. But to be honest with you, I've been excited every year, right? Like when it was Gemini and Sag, woo, that year, like I almost tripled my business. It was crazy. I was excited. I knew it was coming. And it was around 2020 when, everybody had to go online, everybody was stuck at home, but I'd already been online since 2012. Entonces, it was like the moment for me to shine and step into the arena that I was already in, but that now was highlighted. Then when it went into Taurus, I was really excited too, because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to change, grow, and abundance, developing artistry, and really paying attention to the planet, the land, myself, my body, and my own indigenous practices that I've been doing for a long time, but kind of getting really grounded into the ritual, right, of everyday life and how to move and dance with spirit and making life a ritual. It doesn't have to be this long drawn out ceremony, but just the little things that we do every day, the thoughts that we keep, the space that we hold for ourselves and for others allow us to be spirit on the go, spirit on the ground, right? And so when the nodal shift happened a year and a half ago and it went into Aries and Libra, I was also excited. I was like, yeah, time to create, to initiate, to take action. And so what we've been dealing with in the last nodal shift, which isn't completely over, right? Today's January 7th. So we're still in the north node of Aries and in the south node of Libra. The lessons that we've been invited into in the last year and a half have been all about stepping up for ourselves, being our own self-authority, right? Guiding our own inner self. Maybe even if you have a business or you're a writer or creative, creating some thought leadership and really standing up for ourselves, especially in those spaces where maybe we haven't. Like I'm a go-getter, I'm somebody that fights for what I want, etc. But I still have a teeny bit of people pleaser, just like everyone else, because as a healer, I like to keep things nice, right? As a healer, I like to keep things at peace. I don't like to really go balls to the wall, pissed off, angry, and throw down, right? Because, somebody once asked me, are you a cabrona? I'm like, well, I have an inner cabrona, but that doesn't mean I act out that way, right? My tough ass lady, my strong Taurian energy is the one that keeps me going and determined and on the path and devoted to the mission and devoted to those I love and what I love. But at the same time, I've always endeavored to leave the spaces that I've been a little bit better and to work, when they go low, I go high, Michelle Obama. And so it's an interesting thing that when the North Node in Aries came in, there were a couple of situations where I had to have very uncomfortable conversations, kind of heading things off at the pass. Whereas in the past, I would have been like, let me light a candle, send the good energy, talk to their guides and angels, and work it out that way. So the North Node really invited us as the collective and then personally to make ourselves the priority, to step into more self authority, to perhaps define what is it that we truly, really want, right? Because what we wanted when we were 20, what we wanted when we were 30 isn't the same thing that we want maybe at 33 or 42. Life changes us in ways that we don't even know. And sometimes we feel we can complete a cycle of existence, right? Like some people wanted to go out and try being a full-time artist, and then they were like, you know what, I'll always be an artist, but I'm going to go back to corporate. Or some people like built a nonprofit and then they kind of passed on the baton. Some people went online and created a business, and then after COVID, they were like, uh-oh, this is not really what I want. I want the stability of a paycheck. So there are things that are for a season, there are things that are for a reason, and things that come and go, and other things that stay and may change form. When we're talking about the North Node in Aries, we have all been invited, one way or another, to really step up to the plate for ourselves, to say, these are my boundaries. I will do this, but I won't do that. And this is who I am unapologetically. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, girl, I did not get the memo for that lesson, you still have time. You still have time. I mean, I know legit today is January 7th, and January 11th is when Pisces comes in. But at the same time, remember, we're works in progress. Somos este trabajo en proceso, en progreso, and it's not about perfection. It's about progress over perfection. And also, I would say process over perfection. We are in a continuous evolutionary process of growing, of understanding, of integrating, of releasing. And a lot of times, healing, most of the time, healing is not linear. Healing is very much spiral. Or we're like, wait a minute, I already been here talking about this, about my mom or my dad or my this or my that. And now I'm back. But most likely, when you're coming back around to talk about something, you're talking about it from a very different perspective. You're talking about it from a perspective where you may have integrated part of that healing, but there may be more left. Because every time we come back around with an issue or a pattern or a situation, or we're challenged to grow, we are now in a different space and we are invited to approach it differently. So, yes, the North Node in Aries really invited us to kind of own our space, own our desires, our dreams, and who we are. And the South Node in Libra, right? Libra is very concerned about other people and taking care of other people and focusing on the community or the family or el que dirán, what will people say, that kind of energy. And in this beautiful nodal lesson that we received, it's like, listen, make yourself a priority. And when you take care of yourself, you're going to naturally take care of others. And, this book that's out there that I was listening to, Let Them, I forget who wrote it, but she's really famous. So let me say her name, Mel Robbins. Talking about let other people talk about you, let other people think whatever they want, and you do you, and then you move forward in your life. That is so North Node in Aries, right? And South Node in Libra. So if you still feel like you haven't really integrated that lesson, here are some questions that I want to offer you, which is, where have I still not made myself the top priority? Where am I still deferring to others or feeling that if I don't do it, it won't get done? Or feeling like I have to do everything for other people or everything will fall apart. In my 20s, I was in therapy, and I remember talking to my therapist at the time, and I was like, but you don't understand. If I don't handle this and I don't handle that, and at the time I was engaged and I also had 3 stepkids. If I don't do this and I don't take them to the baseball team and I don't take them to the therapist, and she's like, so what? So what? And I'm like, but everything will fall apart. She goes, sometimes things have to fall apart in order for things to get better. Now, that's easier said than done, right? The kids were my stepkids, right? They weren't my actual physical kids. Not that I didn't love them, because I did. But here I was, this young woman going all out for children that were not mine, and I wasn't even married, right? So I was taking on the title of wifey and mom, y mama, y mamacita, without actually legit being a wifey or a mom. And I was young. And so when I learned that lesson, that reminds me so much of the North Node in Aries right now, and the South Node in Libra, where it's like, listen, you want to help and please everyone and take care of everybody. Are you taking care of yourself? So ask yourself those questions. Am I truly taking care of myself? Am I truly my top priority? Am I giving away too much of my time, of my energy, of my love? And we know that we can't control other people. We know that even with our love, we can't control other people. We know that even if we think we know better than the other people, that it's their life, unless, they're under 18 and they're your child. Um, and the more we let go of trying to control outcomes, the more aligned we become in our own authenticness, our own authentic desires and being, our own authentic mission on earth, and our own authentic aligned plans for existence that were created before we were born. To me, when we look at a natal chart, what we're looking at is not these like hard corners and these labels where we're trapped and limited. To me, we're looking at a beautiful rainbow spectrum of what are the astro potentials for our existence, right? And I'll talk about the two offers that I have coming up and why they're special and why they're important later. But I want to keep talking about the astrology part. Astrology is really about archetypes and how we find those resources of energy, understanding, wisdom, and existence within us. We all have all of the 12 different archetypes within us in different ways. Some of them remain more dormant, some of them we've mastered in other lifetimes, and others we are focused in to really be able to experience them and integrate them into the wholeness. So I do evolutionary astrology, and so it's all about evolution and how do we integrate all these different aspects of ourselves to live the most whole, most authentic, and most fulfilled life. And so when we're talking about the nodes in Aries and Libra, know that there's still time. It's something that we're going to work on for the rest of our lives, having those boundaries and understanding where, other people begin and where we end. Because sometimes when we love, we're just, by accident, maybe trampling over people's boundaries. And we need to step back. We need to focus on ourselves, take care of ourselves. So we're not like, well, they didn't do this for me, and this is what happened. I gave them all this love and blah, blah, blah. We don't want to hear all that. That really, that type of self-talk really creates a lack of peace, a lack of groundedness, and a focus on the negative where we're focusing on what other people haven't done or what they're not doing. And that's so traditional, like martyrdom, mommy martyrdom, right? Like our mothers, well, I did this for you and you didn't do this for me, and all this stuff. This is stuff that a lot of us have heard, maybe our grandmothers, maybe we were lucky and we didn't, but we don't want to become that, right? We want to be able to set our children free, set our family free, set our friends free, to meet them with open-heartedness. Even if we're afraid or we know that they may be going down the wrong path, it's not for us to control or decide. Again, unless they're under 18, that's a different story. So these are the nodes that we've been dealing with, self and others, and how do we balance that out, el equilibrio, ¿no? En el amor propio, también teniendo límites, y también amando y queriendo a los demás, right? Loving other people. So the excitement is really just, I'm so excited. I'm really excited. And somebody who, like, I think is not too keen on the nodal shift was like, oh, Vanessa, it's not that exciting. And I'm like, well, girl, it is for me. The shift of the North Node into Pisces and the South Node into Virgo is happening January 11th, right? 2025, it's just a few days away. And it marks a significant astrological event that will influence both the collective and individuals on a global scale. This is some big ish, okay? Because what it is the next lesson that we're all working on collectively for the next 18 months. The nodes of the moon, right, are the North Node and the South Node, and they're not planets, but they are points that represent the intersection of the moon's orbit with the ecliptic plane. They are deeply connected to karmic destiny, collective lessons, and soul growth. And that's why they're so important when we're talking about evolutionary astrology, right? It's not about things being carved into wood. Well, wood is like malleable, but carved into stone. But it is about moving with the seasons and moving with the cycles and allowing ourselves to continue to evolve and to grow. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the key themes of the North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo that's going to last from 2025, January 2025, for 18 months. So it'll be there for quite a minute. And I'm not going to give it all away and tell you all about it because I do have a class coming up. Let me tell you a little bit about the class. The class is called Astro Potentials, right? 2025, How to Thrive in 2025. That is happening Wednesday night, January 22nd, and it's $39.99. It's an hour and a half. What we will do is I will come up, I will do a presentation, I will show you these things because we all learn differently. Some of us learn by listening and hearing the information, some of us need to see it. So I'm going to have things in a presentation, or we're going to review what the nodal shifts are going to do for us independently as different rising signs, as different sun signs. And then we're going to look at the astrology of 2025, right? Because Neptune is going into Aries, we've got Saturn going into Aries, we've got Jupiter going into Cancer. We have a lot of the outer planets making big shifts that are going to affect us, some for a shorter period of time, like Jupiter, but some of them for like a long time, like maybe a decade or two. So we're like on the precipice of tremendous astrological opportunity and change. And that class, as I said before, is $39.99. It is an hour and a half. It's happening Wednesday night, 7:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to include the information so you could see it. So I will talk about the North Node and the South Node in this session, but we're going to talk way more and talk about all the changes and how they impact your astrology and how you can make the most out of these cycles that are happening in 2025 for your business, for your health, for your love life. I've already done some of we'll talk about the other offer in a minute, but the class is happening, as I said, January 22nd, Wednesday, 7:30 to 9 p.m. If you can't make it, there will be a recording sent out, so no worries. I will have the link here, and I hope that you join me because it really came from my heart as I sat here and I'm like, okay, what offering can I create to support people with this 2025 year? All right, so coming back, I'm going to cover some of the key themes. We're going to talk about some of the things, but I'm going to leave a lot of it also for the class. So North Node in Pisces. Now, this is the future point of evolution, right? The North Node. Each and every one of us has a North Node and a South Node in our actual natal chart. The North Node in your own natal chart is going to point to the place of the future. Where are you evolving to? What is your destiny? Where are you moving towards on a soul level, mental level, physical level, spiritual level? And the South Node will point to the past. It will point to your past life gifts, to your past lives. Where were you before you were at this lifetime? And sometimes if we fought the good fight and not allowed ourselves to change, que nos pasa, right? A lot of us can do this. Sometimes we're actually living out of our South Node. And when we're living out of our South Node, we don't really feel the complete fulfillment of having stepped into our fullest destiny. When people haven't really lived into their North Node, they come to a session, they're like, I feel like something is missing. I feel like I'm not really fulfilled. I'm successful, I'm doing all the things, I have all the things, I'm living the life that I wanted, but yet. And then when I hear them speak and I do their natal chart, I'm like, oh, okay. The thing is, you're living out of your South Node. When we're living out of our South Node, it's a place of comfort. We've already achieved this in our past lives, right? We've already honed those talents. So let's say you're a South Node in Virgo. You've already honed the talents of discernment and detail oriented, right? And being very specific and planning things out. Then that would mean in this lifetime, you'd have a North Node in Pisces, which would be faith over fear and trusting the invisible world, trusting your spirituality, your intuition, your creativity. So you see how the North Node becomes a really important part of your evolution because it invites you to release what you're comfortable with, what you've already developed in past lives, in order to step into the unknown, in order to grow. All right, so let me have a sippy sip because I'm coughing over here. So, as I said, North Node is the future point of evolution. It indicates where we as a collective are being called to grow, expand, and evolve. Last year, it was all about learning to be more independent, creating boundaries, etc. This year with Pisces, which is a water sign and it's mutable, this points to spiritual awakening, compassion, imagination, creativity, and unity, which Lord knows and Goddess knows and Pachamama knows we definitely need. Pisces is a water sign, right? As I said earlier. So it's also associated with dissolution, surrender, and embracing into the intangible. Water is formless, right? So you see, there's this beautiful part of the North Node, which is spiritual awakening, creativity, compassion, service to humanity, right? The other part is that we have to let go of the known. And the shadow part of the North Node in Pisces is getting caught up in fantasy, getting caught up in deep fakes. And that is something that is going to be really challenging for us as a collective globally in the next 18 months. There's going to be so many scammers, so many fakes that we already don't know what real news is, right? We're going to be like, pero Dios mío, yo no sé si esta persona, it's their head or not their head, you know? So it's really just about being true to ourselves, not allowing ourselves to have the wool pulled over us, and to stick to our intuition, to our creativity, and to our compassionate spirit. During this time, the collective will likely be moving towards greater empathy. We really hope, porque sabemos que lo necesitamos, right? Más compasión, more compassion, and appreciation for the mystical, artistic, and emotional realms. So that's what we're invited into, right? Last year was about independence, holding our boundaries. And now this year, it's about like seeing the unity. I think that the last couple of years, sometimes politically, it's been a lot about us versus them. In the next 18 months, what we're going to see is that there's going to be a lot of voices being raised, talking about our sisters and brothers around the planet who are suffering, instead of looking for scapegoats or pointing fingers, trying to create more unity so we could work through this next epoch, esta época que viene ahora, like the next evolution of humanity, from a more compassionate, kind, and loving space, right? Which we need. Some of the qualities of the North Node in Pisces, right? So that would be embracing spirituality, intuition, and faith, connecting with collective humanity, seeing the big picture, healing. There's going to be a lot of healing opportunities for everyone. And you know what you could do real quick is look at the area in your chart, if you know a little bit about natal charts, where you have Pisces, and see, well, that's the area it's going to hit you, right? It could be the area of work, it could be the area of family, self-love. But wherever that Pisces is going to be that deep invitation to release the past, to have more empathy and compassion for yourself, to release rigid structures and really move into more creativity in the unknown, trusting the flow of life. Now, if you're wondering, I don't know what she means about looking at a natal chart, not only did I create a class for Wednesday, January 22nd, I also created a one-on-one offer for the folks who are like, hey, I want to sit down with Vanessa on Zoom. I want her to look at my natal chart, to open the records, connect to my guides, and really tap into the astral potentials that I was born with. And then what are the cycles for 2025? And what are the challenges and opportunities that are happening for 2025? So if you're one of those people, I will put the link in the body of this YouTube and this episode, right? The Biz Bruja podcast episode, so you can book a session. The sessions are going to be available because they're at a discounted rate for the rest of January. So you have to book it in January for it to, stand. And you could book it for May, you could book it for the future, but you have to book it now. And usually my sessions are $275 for the astrology chart, but I am doing it in January for $150. So if you're interested, the link is there. And what we'll do again is you'll book the session. I will send you an email with the Zoom link, and then I'll get your details, and then we'll hop on privately like we are right now, but just us. And we're going to look at your chart, open your records, and receive the wisdom that you need in order to make the most of the cycles of 2025 for your business, for your life, for your creativity, for your healing, and for anything else that's weighing heavily on your heart. So if you're interested in having that, I've done a couple already, and people are walking away so joyful, so supported, so calm, and so in the energy of trusting the flow of life. So if you're interested, the link will be there. Okay, So we're talking about the keys of the North Node in Pisces, which is the invitation that all of us are being invited into as a collective. Now, the South Node in Virgo, right? The opposite of Pisces. It's an earth sign. It's still mutable, but it's grounded. This is the pass point where we are encouraged to release outdated patterns. Virgo is a sign of precision, analysis, health, and service. It represents a tendency towards perfectionism, critical thinking, and focusing on the smaller details. Now, while these traits are not inherently negative, I mean, we need them. We need discernment, right? We need critical thinking. So they're not negative. The South Node in Virgo asks us to release an overemphasis on order, perfection, practicality. There may be a tendency to become overly critical, judgmental, and caught up in the minutia, right, of everyday life. And so this nodal axis invites us to evolve beyond excessive control and beyond being excessively critical and finding balance between order and surrender. Now, because we're dealing with order and surrender, just know that, you may have spent a lot of your life creating something or building something, and this year there might be a challenge where you have to surrender. You have to surrender a part of the way you think or surrender a way of doing things and being open to the unknown of a new way of doing things, right? And so the key qualities of the South Node in Virgo: releasing perfectionism, excessive self-criticism, moving away from overanalyzing and controlling the details, letting go of fear-driven tendencies, especially related to health or service, and balancing practicality with trust in the unseen and spiritual world. Now, I could continue and continue and continue, but like I said, I am really interested in having this class on the 22nd, where we will talk about the nodes and we will also talk about the cycles, because Jupiter is going to be going into Cancer this summer. We have Neptune is also shifting. We have Saturn shifting. Uranus is shifting too into Gemini. So there's a lot of exciting things happening with outer planets that are going to affect us collectively, generationally, and then specifically. Now, I would love to hear from you if some of you have North Node in Pisces, if you have North Node in Virgo. This is an exciting time. And it's not like, oh, that's not for me because I don't have that. You do. Everybody in their natal chart has one of the houses in those 12 little sections where there's Pisces and where there's Virgo. And depending on where they land and where the lunation happens, where the nodal, right, the nodal shift highlights, it means that it will impact you the most in that arena. My great hope for this nodal shift is that we will rise into greater creativity. Listen, I'm into Netflix and chill as much as the next person, especially on these snowy days where I'm a little bit trapped inside, still healing from my flu, right? It's over, but I got the cough. But I'll tell you this, something that I told my husband. I was like, it makes me sad that on some level, we've been guided or inspired to become like a consumeristic society. I mean, thankfully, with the social media platforms, also people have become very creative and tapped into that. Or not that we've become creative. I think that creativity is our birthright. Intuition is our birthright, right? Intuition, creativity, spirituality. Each and every one of us are born with the capacity to evolve and grow in deeper ways. But I was saying, we're taught to consume so much. My great hope is that in the next 18 months, so many of us are going to begin to create the things that we're not seeing. Living where I live in Central PA, I wasn't exposed to a lot of Latino groups. And then a couple of us got together and then we created Raíces Creativas. And we just gathered, were able to get some money and then created 8 events for the Latino community. And so when there's something that's missing in your community, when there's something that's missing in your life, right? Just sit with yourself and say, is that my place? Is it my place to gather people to create the thing that's missing? How do I tap into my creativity? And so that's my greatest hope for the next 18 months, that we remember how resourceful we are, that we allow ourselves to release some of the pain that we're carrying because of the Virgo tendencies of being overcritical or having internalized, right, the voices of society, our community, our mamas y papas, right, our abuelitas, who maybe were very critical of us. It's time to let go of those voices. My great hope is that we learn to have more compassion for ourselves, to love ourselves more, and just accept ourselves the way that we are. And in so doing, the more that we love ourselves, the more that we have space for our own failings, right? Because we're not perfect. No one is perfect, and nor should we strive to be. Obviously, we want to do better, be better, rise to the occasion to the best way that we can. But at the same time, we need self-compassion and we need self-forgiveness in order to allow ourselves to grow. If we're perfectionists and we do not even allow ourselves to put pen to paper or to create what we're dreaming of creating, how can we ever grow? And so my message to all of you creatives, to all you beautiful, intuitive seres de luz, you're beings of light having this human experience, remember who the fuck you are. You are this child of God, this beautiful spiritual being that incarnated on this planet to have these experiences. And while there's so much on this planet that scares the bejesus and the crap out of us, there's also so much opportunity for love. There's also so much opportunity to create beauty, create connection, create community, to feel fulfilled, knowing that we've tended to a part of the garden that will never be the same again because we're leaving it even slightly better than we found it. And that's our role. So many people say, well, Vanessa, I feel overwhelmed. There's so much to do. How can I save the world? And I'm like, you simply cannot. You simply cannot. But each and every one of us could do our little part to tend to our own healing, to do our intergenerational ancestral healing and release those things that no longer serve, and then to create new ways of being, remembering that creativity, spirituality, community, intuition, and beautiful energia are truly our birthright. Sending you all so much love. Let me know how this landed for you. I love you all. We're in our 6th year together. Please share the podcast, share the link. I want to keep doing this. And when I hear from you, it fills my heart up and I keep doing it. And I'll have the links for the 2 offers, one for the one-on-one reading. Instead of $275, it'll be $150. And then for the class that's happening January 22nd from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I'll send out a recording about how to thrive in 2025 with the astrological changes based on your own astro potentials. Mucho amor y mucha paz. Adiós.